And I'm very happy to be here for our final Sunday in our Back to Basics series. Every January, we take the number of Sundays in January and really go back into what are the basic ideas that we teach. And I've enjoyed this series very much. I hope you have also. If you have people who've been interested in Mile High, one way to introduce them to our community is to say, hey, watch these series of talks or watch one of them and get a sense of what it is that we believe. And this Sunday, well, our theme has been a wonderful theme. I love anything where we get to talk about thriving. So it's been spiritual practices for spiritual rites of thriving, which is wonderful. And today I get to talk about abundance, one of my favorite topics. I'm very passionate about teaching people about abundance and believing that all of us can be abundant. And so my title is From Living For to Living From Abundance. And in the materials for this week, in the description of today's topic, there was a quote by a great author, Eric Butterworth, who was a minister in Unity. He wrote a book called Spiritual Economics, one of my favorite books on abundance. And Butterworth says, things may happen around you and things may happen to you, but the only things that matter are the things that happen in you. This is akin to what Josh and I have been talking about this whole month, that Ernest Holmes would tell us that life can do no more for us than it can do through us, that we provide the avenue through which life expresses itself fully and completely. And so we believe then, when it comes to abundance, that it's all about what's going on inside of us that is allowing abundance to be expressed through us. Now, I want to be really clear, when I'm talking about abundance today, I am certainly talking about the realm of finance and money, but I'm also talking about other places where we struggle believing there's not enough. Maybe we have a belief that there's not enough opportunity for me in the world. There's not enough jobs in my field. There are not enough friends in my life. There's not enough love to go around. There's not enough time to get everything done that I want to do. There's not enough of whatever it is we believe there's not enough of. And as we've been saying all month, as I said a couple weeks ago, as long as we persist in that belief, if life flows through us, we get to be right. We get to prove ourselves right over and over again because life can only do for us what it can do through us. And so if what we're providing is a constant din of where there's not enough, of what's missing, of what we don't have that we wish we had, and we're focused on it, and we can often do some of our best spiritual work in that state because we give it a lot of oomph, don't we? There's just not enough to go around. We have an energy, that kind of energy is one of the secrets to manifesting. So we're doing great manifesting, but not always in the direction we would like to, right? And so, in order to shift the tide in any realm of living, to make way for more to be expressed, we have to shift something in us. We have to shift our ideas. We have to shift our energy. And we can't just do it one time, usually. We've got to do this, especially if we've been persistent in our experience of lack in a certain area. We might have to apply ourselves over and over for a while in order for things to truly shift. This is true of all of us, that we have established this awareness that it's flowing through us, just like the sun is flowing freely and effortlessly on the planet. And every once in a while, you find yourself in a pocket of shade, and you never think, well, the sun is keeping me from its light. It doesn't want me to have light. The sun wants me to learn lessons about surviving without light. We don't think that, do we? But we think that about God. If we don't have enough of something, we might be tempted to say, well, God's teaching me lessons through this lack in my life, or God just wants me to learn how to survive with less than everyone else, or whatever that story is. And I'm here to say again, I say this all the time, and I will say it to my dying breath, God doesn't want any of that for us. It's like the sun, shining brightly, given its all, and we, through our own thought, through our own ideas, through our own clouds of lack and limitation, we create it so that we can't experience the full experience of that sun. And then we feel victimized by our own consciousness. So it's about expanding, cloud busting, letting it go, becoming an instrument of the divine. We have a picture here of some instruments, and it dawns on me that if I'm an instrument of divine abundance, then what I have to do in order to experience more of it is tune myself to abundance. Just think about it for a minute. All these instruments up here on this platform, they have to be tuned. Imagine if Bijou never tuned his bass again and showed up and tried to play a song with the rest of the band. How it would sound pretty horrible, right? It would be dissonant, wouldn't be that pleasant to the ears. And I learned today that they even tune the drums. That's my new factoid for the day. Did you know that they tune drums? They have to adjust the drums to have the right tension to play what it is that he wants to play. And we definitely have to tune that piano for sure. We have to keep it in tune. And we have to attune it over and over again. We don't get to say to Bijou, just tune your bass once and then keep showing up and playing. Because as he lives it out and he moves the bass and weather happens and it gets out of tune. You and I are like that too. If we want to attune to greater good in some realm, we have to tune ourselves over and over, probably daily. Just like we have to tune these instruments daily. It's not that you're broken or something's wrong with you or you're different than anybody else. It's simply that to have more of the good that we desire in life, we've got to pay more attention. We've got to attend to being sure that our instrument is in tune for what it is that we want more of. And that's all it is. And so today, to illustrate this and invite us into greater tuning, I have brought, in the spirit of our beloved Dr. Roger, an acronym for us. Yeah. The acronym is MORE. When we want more, M-O-R-E, there are some things that we have to attune to experience more. The M stands for we have to mine creative thoughts. Just like someone who is mining in the earth, it's a lot about chunking away what we don't want to reveal what we do. So some of our mining to gather our creative thoughts is to let go of old patterns, to forgive people who've taught us things we find that don't work for us, to let go of old beliefs, to let go of beliefs we have about the way the world works or doesn't work, and to really mine for better and creative ideas. I often say to people, I think when it comes to having what we want, most of us are about 1 or 2 thoughts away. And if we could but consistently tune ourselves to the thoughts and ideas we want more often, we probably would be a place through which it would express itself. But we give up too quickly. We give up too easily. We don't do the work, or we do the work for a day or two or a week or two, and then we go, where's my goodies? Where's my stuff? I did that stuff, and did it work? Well, then do more, is what my answer is. Do more. And pay attention to where our thoughts are out of alignment. I had a simple example that came to mind for me in this one from when I was 16 years old. It was my 16th birthday. My birthday is in December. And I had started at Pomona High School in Arvada, and I was, they're the Pomona graduates. Yeah, yay, Pomona, P-O-M-O-N-A, yeah. Okay. So I had worked hard to find my way into the school. I joined in my freshman year, and I was figuring out what I wanted to do and how to make friends, and I ended up in the choir. And on this particular day, we had a concert on the night of my 16th birthday, and we had decided to all dress in formal gowns, and the guys were wearing tuxes, and that night, my mother was coming to go to the concert, and she said to me, I'm going to go skiing, and then I'll be back for your concert. I said, fine, that's great. So I'm at the concert, I'm up on stage in the choir, and the curtains open, and I look out, no mother. And I started kind of worrying a little bit, like, God, I hope she's okay. I'd been coming to church here, and then I took a deep breath and just affirmed her good. And we're singing away, we're singing Christmas songs, and all of a sudden, in between songs, I look up, and my mother is standing in the back of the room, and she's in her ski clothes. And that's okay, but there's only one seat, and it's right down in front, right? And so yes, exactly, I'm waiting. As she walks down the aisle, she sees the seat, and it's like so loud in the whole auditorium. And she sits down, and I see her looking up at the choir, and she's scanning the choir, and she sees her eldest daughter in a formal gown standing there on her 16th birthday, and my mother starts crying. Not, but ugly cry, like loud, ugly cry. And everyone is looking at her, and all the kids are looking at her. I'm thinking, thank God no one knows that's my mother. And so the director's kind of, okay, let's sing. So we start singing, and the concert is over, and I'm so embarrassed, but I don't tell anybody. I go out into the commons, and we get out there, and all the kids are like, who was that woman? And I'm going, I don't know. I don't have a clue. And I'm standing there with my friends, and all of a sudden I hear, and no, she's got me. And my friends are like, that's your mother. Yeah. I was so embarrassed. I was so mortified, right? In that moment that my mother had embarrassed me so badly that for a little while, I thought if she loved me, she would have never done that to me, right? And so I let it kind of have a little wedge between us for a while. Like, I was so embarrassed by her. Have you ever been a teenager? I think that's kind of how we think sometimes. Because I can feel you're all like, oh, she really loves you. It took me a while to keep processing and being with that and letting go of my embarrassment and realize it was one of the sweetest things that my mother's ever done. And it was so sweet that she loved me so much, that she had such a visceral, heart-filled reaction that she loved me. And I was able to shift my whole story about that silly incident. This is one of a million gazillion examples in my life, and I bet all of us have those, where we had something happen and we made up a story about it because we're really good at it. And we let that story keep us from our good. We let that story keep us from love. We let that story keep us from abundance. We let that story keep us from plenty. We let that story, and we don't even know if it's true or not, but we're making stuff up about things that happened. And as we grow older and we become more spiritually mature and we become more able to see all sides of it and we have more experience, sometimes we can enter into those stories and see it differently. See what was possibly going on. And even if we can't, we are wise enough to say to ourselves, maybe she really meant this. Ooh. That's mining for the creative thought. That's being willing to make a shift in a perception so that we can feel more good, more love, more joy pouring through our heart and our life. And when we can do that, we become an instrument more attuned to the good that God is as us. And so we get to do, I remember years ago, our own beloved Dr. Marjorie Stamm wandering these halls. I can still hear her voice shouting out loud, praise God and look for the good and praise it. Look for the good and praise it. She would say that over and over again. That's what we who want to be in a more abundant state around anything have to do. We have to look for the good and praise it, which leads us into the rest of our steps here in our affirmation. It takes discipline to mind these thoughts. Just as if I wanted to build up the muscle in my right arm so I could pick up heavy stuff, I know I would have to do the work to build the muscle up. And that if I wanted the muscle to stay strong, I would have to continue to do the work. Many times in New Thought, what I think we do is we get all excited and we, as I said before, we do the work for a while and then we let it go and we wonder why nothing's happening. Because we have to continue to attend to it. We have to continue to look for the good and praise it. We have to continue to challenge our stories. We have to continue to let go and forgive. The O in the acronym for more is offer up more good. Those who are abundant know that they are allowing themselves to express their generosity and allow themselves to let it flow through them naturally and effortlessly. Recently, I was on Instagram, which I don't go on to very often, And I saw this video that I think someone must have done as an experiment. And they had two little children they would sit them down. They were probably around 4 years old. And they would give each of them two plastic plates. One was this way and one was covering the other one. And they would tell the kids, open your plates at the same time. And the kids would take the top plate off. And one of them would have two halves of an apple cut up. And the other one would have nothing. Time after time after time, the kid who had something would just automatically give the other one their half. And then they would hug and share together and laugh and eat their apple. It didn't matter whether it was two girls or two boys or two children whose gender I couldn't tell. It didn't matter at all. What was so prevalent was at that age, there's this natural here, have some of mine. Here, I'll share. And we also know that in time after time, as they do studies on people who are depressed or who are sad or who feel disconnected, that one of the secrets to re-engaging is to go out and give that which you are yearning for. So people who feel isolated and alone, text somebody today and say, "How are you doing? I'm just thinking about you." People who are feeling as though nobody cares about them, extend yourself in love and care towards someone who is in your life, and you be the first one to reach out. People who feel disconnected from life, go out and volunteer and be of service at a food pantry or in a church or in a group somewhere. And what we see happens over and over again is that something happens in the brain when we access that natural abundance, that natural generosity. You see, yes, when we give our time, our treasure, our talents to people, it blesses the people that we do that with. But you know who it really blesses more than anybody? It blesses us. It tunes us in a way that says, I am so abundant that I'm generous. I accept that I'm so abundant that I can give back. I am so tuned in. I'm so connected that I can offer up this good. And this is how we continue to tune ourselves to abundance in all realms of our life. In all realms. Indeed, as I said earlier, mine is time. I still sometimes get caught up in that, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough time. And I have to really pull myself out of that, and I consciously volunteer, support, and mentor other ministers, and do things that call me, even with my busy schedule, to be of service, because I know that's how I meet that realm of challenging myself to believe I've got plenty of time. And when I give like that, I feel so good. It feels so wonderful. It flows so easily. And so offering up more good is our natural state. The R stands for reflect upon your blessings frequently. This is fairly well known in our culture. We've heard about it for years. But a person who takes time to be grateful and really calls out how grateful they are, even when they're going through challenges, to stop for a moment and just be grateful, to reflect upon the blessings that are right here and right now. They expand their beingness in a powerful way. The wonderful comedic actor Jim Carrey says to us, I challenge anybody in their darkest moment to write what they're grateful for. Even stupid little things like green grass, or a friendly conversation with somebody on the elevator. You start to realize how rich you are. See, that's what gratitude does. When we enter into it, gratitude helps us to feel abundant, wealthy. Like, look how much good I got going for myself. Look how much good is flowing in my life. I am so grateful for this good. So reflecting upon our good. And all of this supports the last one, which is embodiment. It's one thing in our teaching to practice affirming a bunch of stuff and saying a bunch of stuff and telling other people, but really where the magic begins to happen is when it becomes so natural. Like we embody it, we take it in, and it starts to be our identity. It's one thing to say, I like to give and share. It's another to know I am a generous person. It's a one thing to say that I like to volunteer a lot. It's another to say I am in service to other people. When it becomes a part of our identity that we are an abundant being who has more than enough time, energy, opportunity, possibilities, people and resources and good that flows through our life, we become that. And when we become that, we are literally magnetic for it. One of my most profound moments that I experienced this was that years ago, I attended a minister's education program that was being led by a colleague of mine whom I admire greatly. And she is also a passionate teacher of abundance and prosperity. And so there's all these ministers, Science of Mind, Unity ministers from all over the world. And she's teaching us, and on the last day, she says to us, I want today for us to work on how ministers often have a poverty consciousness. And we're all like, who, us? Me? And she really talked about how in certain professions and in certain spiritual ways that sometimes people have aligned themselves with a mental equivalent, which is a habit of pattern in mind, in the individual mind or the collective mind of beings, that says people who are spiritual servants should not have anything. It falls back to the old notion in some spiritual traditions. People give up all of their worldly goods because that is the story we heard when Jesus called his followers, his apostles. He asked many of them to give up their lives, give up their professions, and come with me. And so there's this mental equivalent that for eons has sort of followed spiritual leaders, that is sort of this, I'm making an agreement to be a spiritual leader, and therefore I'm making an agreement to be poor and to struggle. And she challenged us all to be willing to let that go. And what we did that day is not only did we talk about it and share about it and cry about it and look at it for ourselves, this is where the embodiment came in. She asked us that day to make a covenant with the universe to be a person of prosperity and abundance. And I remember writing out my little covenant. I, Michelle Medrano, do hereby surrender my beliefs in poverty consciousness as a spiritual leader. And instead, I embrace the notion that God is the abundant presence that serves, supports, and sustains all life, including me. I hereby make a covenant with the universe to live from and be an abundant person. And I signed my name on it, and I read it every day. As I left, I read it every single day. And it busted a lot of that away from me. It allowed it just to fall away. And so you might imagine my suggestion today for homework. If you don't do anything else that I've talked about today, I invite, when in any area, have you made a covenant that says, I'm too old to be in a beautiful, loving relationship? I'm too old to have a career and do something I love to do. I'm too young to do that. I am in a profession that, well, no matter what I do, they just don't pay very well, so I'm never going to have an abundant life. What are some of the agreements that we have made unconsciously with ourselves, with conditions of our life, that when we let them go, have no bearing anymore on what we create? That we can be an abundant being no matter what. We can have more love and companionship and connection no matter what. We can be and do and live the life we choose to live. It's all up to us, though. We have got to live a life where we allow ourselves to mine our creative thoughts, where we allow ourselves to remind ourselves and step into giving, where we allow ourselves to reflect on our blessings, and where we allow ourselves to be the living embodiment of all of this good. This is the abundant life. It's living from abundance. And I'd like to invite us to live from abundance right now as I do what we call affirmative prayer in our community, spiritual mind treatment. If you go up and work with a practitioner, you get a spiritual mind treatment, a prayer just like this from them around any subject that you want. And it's a beautiful way to let yourself be supported and uplifted. And I invite our practitioner prayer partners, if they choose, to stand with me now as we pray together. Taking a deep breath, I fall into this awareness of the divine one, the divine light, the divine love, divine wholeness and harmony, peace and well-being. I recognize that this is the infinite intelligence that is filling this planet. And that in this moment, as we step into this prayer together, we are making a conscious decision to remember the nature of the divine. We are making a conscious decision to step into it and be it and experience it and say yes to it and turn our attention to it like a beautiful flower blooms as it turns its energy, its beingness towards the sunlight. We bloom in the presence of the light that God is right here and right now. And therefore, I accept and affirm that that power, that presence, that source is pouring through me right now, that I am an expression of all the good that God is. And not only is this true of me, it's true of every person within the sound of my voice. I know we are one. I accept the oneness of this universal presence as every being everywhere, and that includes each one of us. We live, move, and have our being in the oneness that God is. We express it fully and completely at all times. And therefore, I affirm the truth for each of us now as I proclaim that we are poised, ready, willing, and able to surrender any blocks to our greater good. That we live in and as the abundance of God. We surrender our stories. We surrender outdated beliefs. And we embrace the opportunity to be the generous, joyful, alive presence that is the truest nature of our being. I accept and affirm that abundance is ours now in any and all areas of life, and invite each one of us to attune ourselves now to any area that we are affirming and accepting greater abundance this day. Just feel the tuning happening as we accept and say yes, yes, inside of ourselves, yes to that greater good. And I just give thanks. I'm grateful to witness this good flowing through us, activated in us, expressing in our lives right here and right now. I am so grateful that as it has been spoken, it is done. I release this prayer now into the action of the law that makes it so. I let go, I let God, I let it be so right here, right now. And so it is. Amen.